Hi guys, this is a quick movie to show you where ELS is on Avenue T in Broadway, and it's pretty easy. You walk in, and when you pop in to your left, you'll see the office assistant. You might wave hello there. You can see there's Texas Tech stuff everywhere. They're trying to promote Texas Tech culture, bus schedules, information about tech. And I'd encourage you to walk around the building a little bit to see their services. Parking is behind the building, and what follows is some interchanges I've had with students, and it's a little dry and boring, but it might give you some ideas for what you could do when you're there. There are two shapes that you have to remember in writing. You're learning all sorts of things about text, but I tell you what, if you want to learn how to write well, you learn these two shapes. A triangle has three different points to it. And what we teach our teachers who are going to be teaching you as freshmen at Texas Tech is that on these points there are three different concepts. One is the reader, one is the writer, and one is the text. Every time you write, you're going to have these three components. You're going to be here, right? The writer. You're going to write for somebody, the reader. And you're going to write something, the text, right? You can't escape it. Every time you write, it's going to be this.
I know in English they didn't like or they didn't prefer to talk about your opinion, especially when you say
Your opinion?
think, I think, I see, when you're talking about yourself or your opinion. They don't like to talk, especially my teacher, when I started here, they say, it's not a good idea to start, I think, talking from your opinion always.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Most teachers do not like your opinion, your presentation of your opinion, right? Using what's called the subjective position, which is I. So they say, don't use I in your paper. Now here's what's interesting. Whenever any one of these things change, just like a triangle, if I change the angle on a triangle, if I change that angle, then the angles on these things change too, right? Yeah. That's just the way it works, right? If you are writing a certain kind of text and your reader changes, then that means your text has to change too. Okay? Let me give you an example. If you are writing to convince somebody in Lubbock that they need to put up a stop sign on a corner, you're going to write in a certain kind of way. It might be more formal. It might use bigger vocabulary. It might use different kinds of words than if you were to write, say, a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? You're not going to use the same kinds of words. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if the reader changes, then your text is going to change. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You mentioned that before you're writing, you have to spend some time to think about your paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
That emphasizes the word you use in the paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you don't have time. You are limited with the time. For example, in the ELS exam or TOEFL exam, you are limited with 30 minutes. So, do you still recommend in this limit time you spend the time to think about?
I do. You do need to spend some time thinking first. Maybe a couple of minutes, maybe a minute. Some of your teachers are probably giving you ideas on how to read the question that you're going to write about and focus on the most important things that are in that question. You get faster at that, and the faster you are, then the more time you can spend on your writing, the less time you can spend on doing that, right? Here's the deal. If you spend 30 seconds thinking about something in a timed writing exam like you're talking about, 30 seconds, not even writing, but just thinking first, your paper is going to be twice as good.
You make a lot more mistakes if you just start writing, and then you, especially for like in class writing, you guys might have a half an hour to do writing or 45 minutes to do a first draft. And when you just start writing right away, I see a lot of those students having to start over on the first draft. The students who actually do some sort of outline first have a much clearer picture of what they want to write, and their writing in their first draft needs a lot less correction than the students that just start writing.
This is very significant because where most students fail when they come into our classes at Texas Tech is they write the same kind of text no matter what this situation is. And so we give them different situations. We say this: pretend you're writing to a senator. Pretend you're writing to somebody who disagrees with your idea. Okay, how is that going to affect what you're going to write? Does that make sense? Okay, we really focus on that. And where students fail is they think they are always writing to their teacher. Your teacher knows you, knows how you write, but that's not who your real audience is. That's not who the real reader is. Your teacher is going to grade your work on how well you address the needs of this particular reader, who is not your teacher.
I write about special or specific idea, but when I write, when my teacher read that, he doesn't know what I mean. Like maybe he think I around about the idea, and this problem. And sometimes take like I think like in my language and change to English, like from Arabic and change to English, and sometimes have some problem with teachers about this. Like they don't understand what I mean here.
Yeah. I see this as the shape of an essay.
Sometimes if you read something, you look like you waste your time. You read a lot of things, but it's not really what you want to read.
Yeah.
Sometimes you read books for I don't know how many days, but a lot, too many pages.
Yeah.
Just no different in my language. Always you have what you focus what you talked about. But if you write in English, you look like you read a lot of things, a lot of things. Sometimes you confuse or you lost what you mean idea.
Yeah. We use peer editing in almost every class in English. I would say probably every class, right? Kanika in some way. So the ability for somebody else to provide more feedback is very useful for you as a writer. It's also very useful for them as a peer editor, right? So in fact, you learn probably more when you're offering advice on other people's writing than you do receiving that advice.
Trade papers and edit. So when we ask you guys trade papers, look at your partner's paper. Well, why? I'm not the teacher. I don't know these things. But when you do that, it's an exercise for you in not only looking at someone else's paper and finding the mistakes, but as Dr. Rice is saying, it will help you look at your own paper and see your own mistakes as well.
Have you ever heard anybody say, you know it when you can teach it?
Yeah.
You've heard that before?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the same way. See how it starts off really broadly. This is where you begin your essay, and you have a first sentence in your essay that is kind of general, that acclimates the reader into a specific kind of topic you want to talk about. Let me give you an example. You might say, some cities are very dry and desert-like. That may be your first sentence. Very vague, right? We don't know which city we're talking about yet. We don't know how dry we're talking, right? All of those are specifics that you can then focus your reader's attention in on. Okay, so you say, there are a lot of these cities that are very dry and desert-like. And then your next sentence might get a little bit more specific that says, Lubbock is one of those cities, right? Something that is very specific. And you know what else about Lubbock? Some of the people here dress up in weird things on Halloween, right? That's even more specific, isn't it? So figuring out ways to start off broad, capture the attention of your reader, and then focus and narrow in is very useful in an essay, right? At this point, you usually have what's called a thesis. Have you guys studied thesis?
Yes.
Okay, what is a thesis?
Introduction. Introduction about subject,
Uh-huh.
general idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even a little bit more specific than that, than the general idea.
And my question is about academic word.
Academic
Word.
words?
Yes.
Words, okay.
When can we use academic word?
Okay, we have a weird word in my area of study that I'm going to show you, and you're going to think, I've never seen that word before, but it's called ingfish. Have you ever heard of ingfish? Ingfish, what it means is, it's two different words, English and fish, kind of thrown together to make a word that you think sounds interesting, right? One of the things that students fail at is they will write words that they think the teacher wants to hear, right? Academic words, big words. You're learning all sorts of vocabulary, and that's very useful. Again, reading is very helpful for this. What's difficult is, just like if you misspell something in an essay, if you try to use a word that is inappropriate or is out of place, is ingfishy, is what we call it, it's disruptive to the reader. For me, a thesis has 3 parts to it, and if you're taking notes, this is good to write down. Because if you can understand what a thesis is, you're going to have success in college, right? A thesis is this. It has 3 things. First, it's an opinion, okay? It's not a fact. If it's a fact, you're not going to meet the needs of your reader, because the reader already knows what the fact is. Why would the reader spend time reading your essay? It has to be an opinion. Okay, somebody has to be able to disagree with that. Lubbock is flat. Is that a fact or an opinion?
Fact.
It's a fact. It's one of the flattest places on earth, maybe next to Saudi Arabia, right? And it's very flat. So instead you have to come up with an opinion. I don't think Lubbock is really that flat. That's something that somebody would disagree with, probably, right? So it's an opinion. But it has to be presented as if it's a fact. I'm going to write factual. So you don't want to present it as a question. Is Lubbock flat? That doesn't help you with a thesis. You want to present it as a fact, a statement, not a question. Make sense? Okay, so it's an opinion presented as a fact, and then it needs, the third point is it needs evidence to support your fact. Make sense?
Yes, offense, I mean, proof, something.
A proof, absolutely, yeah. There are some things that don't need proofs. The sky is blue. Well, everybody can just look outside and see that it's blue. You don't need evidence to support that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have these 3 things, and this makes a good thesis. Students who don't do well in college at Texas Tech at the freshman level don't do all of these 3 things in a thesis statement.
A couple conversations.